Good Wednesday morning, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us on the last day of summer. We're grateful for your viewership and listenership here on the I Love Seville Network. This show presented on a Wednesday by Ross Mortgage. Scott Morris, he is A-plus people. And this time of vulnerability, this time of tumultuousness, you need people like Scott Morris and Keith Smith on your side. And today is an opportunity for you, the viewer and listener, to ask questions, and I think we all have them. Jerome Powell, later today, will address not only the nation, but the world. The expectation is 3/4 of a point of a hike. Some speculate a full point. We have executives at Wells Fargo that are insisting we should rip off the Band-Aid and making a strong case for a 150 basis point increase. Either way, there is uncertainty. We'll try to get some clarity from Scott and Keith today. Judah, studio camera, let's welcome the experts to the show. Scott, good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you, sir.
Freaking love you.
I love you guys. I'm glad to be here.
Great to have you here, seriously.
Thank you.
Keith Smith, good morning.
Good morning. I was just thinking on the way in, hey, the band's back.
I know.
The band's back.
I love when this guy is here.
Yeah.
I'm going to get out of your way. Scott Morris, let's rock and roll. Your first take of the day, anywhere you want to go.
All right, so we were chatting beforehand about Wells Fargo, the president, chief executive, speaking about how they'd like to see rip the Band-Aid off, go 150 basis points. And I said it's because they'd like to get to easing faster. That's not really true. They know that easing is coming, so they rip that off. All that short-term interest is benefit to the banks and short-term lending, credit cards, HELOCs, all the stuff that's attractive right now, bank-to-bank lending. If they can get that yield up faster, they're going to make more money before the Fed turns the faucet off. That's the why. That's the why. And when we talk mortgage rates, I stick to what I've said. The medicine that they're applying right now to the patient hasn't fully kicked in. From a traditional technical standpoint, we've been in a recession for 3 months. Typically, 9 months after a recession begins is when the Fed begins its easing. I think we go a little bit further. We're going to get a pause. We're going to stop. They're going to drive. They're going to continue into November on the rate hike increases. We're going to go to 4.25 for a Fed rate. So that's then prime is 2 points plus. So we're 6 there. Mortgage rates are going to be in the 7% range. I don't think we go as high as 8. Maybe for some, when you look at investment properties, different things, credit qualified. To give you an example, yesterday I had a scenario, and I'll give some specifics for that way that the sharpshooters are out there saying, you need to qualify this in APR.
You got brokers watching right now.
So given just a scenario, 800 credit, $400,000 purchase, 50% LTV, 30% DTI, 5.875. That's probably closer to 6 today, although pre-market pricing I don't believe is accurate because I don't think the investors have fully bought into where the MBS market is going to be until we get to the speech, because we kind of get an okey doke like we've seen in the past where pre-market we're seeing a lower yield on the U.S. 10-year, but then just like when you see a ton of green on the screen on the day that they're speaking, like we are right now, it's really institutional money luring in the retail investor to dunk on them later in the day if things get ugly. Now, at the same time, if we get a 75 basis point, I think that's already priced in. I think we get some reprieve. We get a 100 basis point. I think there's some pain felt. That's Scott's quick take of the morning.
Good take. Sizzle reel that. Judah Whitcower. First one. Keith Smith, jump in.
So from your perspective, and Jerry, from your perspective, and the listeners and the viewers, so why isn't the medicine working? Why isn't it working?
Because policy takes a longer amount of time to work through the system. I believe it's beginning to work.
Yeah.
Also, part of the problem was that we had a supply side inflation issue, not something that was going to be cured simply by throwing money at it, which we've talked about before. But policy takes a long time to work through the system. They have just there were some articles out about how the Fed lied about its giving up of protecting mortgage-backed securities, and it was still making greater bond purchases than they said that it was going to be making. And part of that had to do with what was going on with Ukraine and China. China was reducing their amount of bond purchases, and they were doing it in a way that was, a financial act of war against the United States of America. And the government, to their credit, stepped in and didn't let the mortgage rates could be much worse than they are right now, just due to the tampering of foreign entities. So the government continued some of its MBS buying longer than they said they would. They took slower to get to their QT, their quantitative tightening. They're selling off of their portfolio, but they're doing it. They're doing the things that they said they were going to do. They've made the rate increases. The rate increases are going to take a while to look. When every libertarian in the United States was screaming inflation, 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 prior to all of this hitting, it got here. It took longer to get here than they expected. It's lasting longer than they expected.
Way longer.
But it's going to see its way through. And what I like to say, if the timeline's long enough, everything's transitory. But there's also things that they're going to do inside of that are mechanisms that are going to benefit rates in the second quarter of next year. I listened to the same dude say that they're not going to make any changes today whatsoever, but there's a chance they could lower rates back down to zero. Think about that. This is the same person talking out both sides of his mouth because he doesn't know. Because nobody knows.
No one knows.
Well, they don't have the crystal balls. I think that's the problem here.
You're right. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball.
But you've been consistent.
I've been consistent. I got off the phone with a very close friend of mine. He runs a $10 billion mortgage company. I'm maybe light, maybe 12, 14. Matt, I don't know. I'll qualify that later.
He's probably watching.
But he gives a watch to at least the beginning of the show, who 100% agrees kind of with where my mind is as far as what we think the future looks like based on data, based on decisions, based on how things look.
So what's the key driver to inflation right now? Is the key driver to inflation people just going out and spending money?
So that's starting to stop, but what we're starting to see is there is a true cost. So I think some of these corporations effed us a little bit early on in their price hikes before they were seeing actual pain points from supply chains. Now that they are eating into their margins. So maybe it was a early hedge to say we know this is coming, but they certainly were posting billion-dollar profits before their supply lines were causing them problems.
Yeah, comments coming fast and furious. Keith Smith.
Yeah, that's a little balance sheet mumbo jumbo and all that stuff. But in the street, what I'm seeing anyway is that I think all this cash everybody saved up, they just kept on buying and buying.
That cash is gone.
That cash is gone.
Well, we had the same problem that we had in 2019. It was a national storyline, and this time from August to December of 2019, the storyline was the Americans have no savings. They are credit loaded, paycheck to paycheck. This is a nightmare. What are we going to do? What do? We get into the pandemic. We pump everybody checks. They've been more flush than they've ever been, and now all of a sudden we're starting to see credit reportings again in a lower amount of savings.
So the reason I agree with your analysis on that is I think you're going to start seeing. I think this bump, this 3/4. Another half and another half by the end of this year. It's all tied to credit cards, home equity. My credit card that I'm using is now all of a sudden super expensive, and I'm sucking out cash. It's not as much as the Band-Aid that I think Wells Fargo's want, but it's awfully darn close to a ripping off of a Band-Aid.
If you think that credit card's expensive now, Wait till this afternoon.
Yeah,
Wait till November.
Wait till
Well,
October's rate hike and November's rate
Well, that's
hike.
the point I'm trying to make,
Yeah.
gentlemen, is that all of a sudden all this cash is gone. All of a sudden now they're looking at credit card bills, and then we're just going to do a complete 180. Our pendulum's going to slip the other way back to your 2019. So, maybe this might help buy some of the slowdown on that. But, as Jerry quoted a number over here, nationwide, we're up year over year, 7.7% nationwide. in
Now
value.
we gotta put context around that.
Sure.
Home values, 7.7% year over year.
Right.
Sales volume,
Down.
the amount of transactions year over year, down 19.9%.
That's exactly right.
So we can't just do the 7.7% without the 19.9%.
I had one of my biggest months of the year last month.
I was going to go there second, but thank you for jumping in.
So we're 19.9% down. Comments are coming in for you specifically. This is from a family. Jerry, don't use our name. We just purchased our house and we locked in a rate over 7%. We felt stung by that, but we did what we had to do.
Well, I wish you would have called me, and we could have possibly had you in a better situation. But at the same time, why don't you email me, message me, smoke signal, whatever you need to do, and when rates fall, because you're going to get your mortgage public knowledge, you're going to get 1,000 things in the mail, email, everything. They'll be sending smoke signals. No, well, before the shift, about what your options might be. And what I am telling you is that in the second quarter of next year, we are going to be in a rate environment where that 7 should hopefully be able to be a 5 or a 4, and let's talk about it.
Another question for Scott Morris. Grayson, we love when you watch the show. Scott, how high will they climb? Will they eclipse 8 this year?
I told Jerry on the phone when I told him I was going to show up today, I said I came to beat up your Facebook post. Are there people who are going to be in the 8s, possibly, depending on credit?
Depends on the borrower.
Yeah, some of that's going to be on the borrower credit profile.
Let's go good credit.
Good credit. I mean, I don't think that. I think that we don't get out of the 7s. I think and
high 7s with good credit.
So all right. So part of it's going to depend on what the bond market really thinks the Fed is going to do based on timeline and jobless reports. So I think we could get a little reprieve. We get 75 bips. I think we get a U.S. 10-year that reacts positively, at least in the short term, and we dip back down from, I'm pricing a lot of stuff right today, depending on how things are looking this morning. Investor into, we also got to get through this freaking election. Part of that has to do, there is enough tied to instability with policy that has investors act like there's a taper tantrum, that there's a negative reaction to every move, given that there's the amount of possible volatility we face due to that.
Are you saying are we gonna touch 8 this year with good credit?
I'm saying with credit, no. I'm saying with good credit, no. 7.25 is your number. That we get to.
It's good credit. It's how much cash you're going to bring to the table. Loan to value.
So much cash to the table doesn't. Just because you're putting more down, if you put 20% down and now you've got no mortgage insurance, you're actually getting a worse price rate than you would with the mortgage insurance in place, because the investor at least then has the protection if you default. So I mean, we're not talking a huge number here. We're talking less than an eighth, or just a number 50 bips in points possibly.
Your daughter's watching in Seattle. Keith Smith.
Actually, she's in Palmyra, Virginia right now.
Oh, she is. Okay.
Yeah,
she just hit the like on the show.
She's flew in for Mom's 80th birthday on Saturday. So.
Fantastic.
Tina, happy birthday! In case you were watching, or if that message can be delivered, Mom, happy birthday! I will try to slide in there and say hello in person.
Please. Kevin Yancey, Waynesboro. He says this. I'll call this right now. Good credit with money down. You're going to see 8.5% to 9% in Q4.
Man, did he smoke that good stuff over there?
You're saying no way, Jose, to
I'm
that.
saying it doesn't go. Yeah, I'm saying we're not. It's not enough of them. We're not talking. Look. All right. Look at what. All right. We moved 2 full percentage points from 3 to 5, or let's say 3 or 2 and 2x from March until now, and the U.S. 10-year doubled.
Right.
I'm saying the U.S. 10-year goes from, the 3.3 it was a couple weeks ago to 3.75.
Dang, dude, this guy wants to put skin on the game. He said, Scott, I will bet you a bottle of bourbon on this. Let's say he'll take that bet. This guy does not, man. But let's set the stage for the bet right now. All right, I'll help set the stage. We're gonna we'll put it at 8.5% as the over/under. 8.5% is a push.
Okay.
Anything under 8.5% by close of business Q4, Scott Morris wins. Anything 8.5% or over by close of business Q4, Kevin Yancey wins. Is that the bet?
Primary residence, 720 credit better.
Okay, there you go. Dude, this is resonating. Beth Marcus, the Queen of Farmington, says you better specify the brand. Other people are in on this bet. Kevin Higgins wants to double down here and take this action here. You got multiple people here. Let's specify the bottle of booze. Let's set the terms right now. So it's going to have the credit. You're writing this down, Smith? Okay, he's writing this down. Credit score is what?
720.
720. Primary residence.
For primary residence, we'll go conventional.
30-year.
30-year fix.
30-year fix. Money down.
We'll go 10%.
10% down, Yancey.
Did you just say 10%?
5%.
Okay, you want to go 5?
I'm good 5 or 10. Either one, they're going to price about the same.
Call 10%. Call 10%. You got Kevin Higgins wants the action as well. Are you willing to take Kevin Higgins' action?
I'm willing to go 2. We'll go 2.
Okay, now let's specify the booze, the brand.
What do they like?
Yancey and Higgins? What kind of booze brand are we talking here? Are we talking Buffalo Trace? Are we talking Angel's Envy? Are we talking Eagle Rare?
Something final, like how many Fridays or whatever do I got to be parked in front of the liquor store in a lawn chair? Is my can we make it something that we can get our hands on?
Okay, what kind of booze do you want to bet, Yancey? You started this.
So I have a bottle of Buffalo Trace. I will donate that to the bet.
Okay, so you're going to contribute?
I'll contribute to the bet.
Okay, he's got Buffalo Trace. All right, so we're going to call it Buffalo Trace. Kevin Higgins, are you taking this action? Put a yes.
It's a 750 liter.
A 750 milliliter bottle.
Yeah.
Kevin Higgins, give me a thumbs up. Kevin Yancey's already locked and loaded. Yancey says, make it simple. Crown XR. You can find that anywhere.
Perfect. Nobody drinks that Irish
Thank you.
blended
I now say
stuff
my
anyways.
Buffalo Trace.
Okay, Keith Smith wrote down the specs in terms of the bet.
So primary residence, credit score 720, conventional 30-year fixed. We settled on 10% down, right?
10% down.
Okay.
That's a hell of a bet right there. Jamie Turner, welcome to the program. Dude, people are loving the program right now. So we
need to pick a date here.
Well, close of business Q4.
Okay, close of business.
So we're talking December 31st.
Yeah.
December 31st at 5 p.m. December 31st at 5 p.m. That's a great freaking bet. And you know why that bet is great? Because that's not that far away. That's a legit bet. That ain't that far away. I love it, Yancey. I love it, Higgins. I love it, Beth. I love it.
So let's change that date.
Kevin Yancey wants you, Keith, if you could, to DM the specifics. And Kevin Higgins is 100% in, and he says, I have a bottle of original Ragged Branch. It's yours if you win. Scott Morris, you have my word on it.
So let's...
This is awesome, right?
I love it.
I know, he loves it.
Let's go.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here.
I think we should set...
Beth Marcus loves this.
Let's set the date for either the 28th of December or the 30th of December, because that's a Wednesday or a Friday, because we can do it. We can do this live on the show.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's do the 28th.
28th is Wednesday.
Yep.
Scott's here on a Wednesday. It's December 28th, and we can do this bet.
All right, so let me re-go through this, guys. Make sure the old guy in the table's got it right. Date is 12/28. Primary residence, 720 credit score. Conventional 30-year fix, 10%. And I only got half of the booze. So what did we decide on the
Crown,
booze?
a bottle of Crown. Although Higgins, if he loses, is up in it, just shows his character. He'll make it a Ragged Branch. Ragged Branch is top shelf there.
Yes, it is.
That's top shelf.
Yes, I'm trying to. I will personally shop to try to match that.
Yeah, it shows his character too.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Noted
Sizzle
down.
reel this so everyone has it and we have it documented. I love this freaking show.
I will send that out to you, Kevin.
Kevin Yancey and Kevin Higgins.
Got it.
Everyone's in. Beth, how about this talk show, baby? How about this talk show, Beth? All right, Keith Smith, your turn to offer some firepower, baby. I know you got something over there.
Brother, I've been writing stuff down.
I know, but you did a lot of data.
I'm the slow guy here, you know. I wanted to pick up a little bit, kind of pivot how this may or may not impact the real estate market. You know, on Monday with Woody Fincham, you know, we decided that we should be tracking list versus sold, going back to this 7.7% number. And actually, while you guys were talking, I took a quick look at Albemarle County, single-family detached, no new construction, and it's really interesting. The last 60 days, it's flat. The list price was $550. The sold price was $550.
So here's the conversation that
Let me get this out here for a second. Same time frame last year, and going to Woody's point on Monday, 489 was the list, sold was 496. So it's interesting. I think that's something we're going to start watching, where list price versus sold price, and see where it's going. And I got a ton of data here, but I got all excited about the bet and the bourbon.
Dude, not if you win the bet, Kevin Yancey will give you the bottle of Crown Royal, and he will also give you a pour of Pappy Van Winkle.
I like Kevin.
That is legit.
Yeah, I'm on board for that.
Pappy Van Winkle.
Absolutely.
I mean, does it get better than that?
No, it doesn't. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It sounds like you got a new best friend there.
Yeah,
That is as top shelf as you get.
That is as top shelf as you get. I register every year for the
the lottery.
Lottery, and I never win.
I never win the
no,
lottery.
I've won some pretty cool stuff. I got. I think I had a Crown Orphan Barrel bottle at one time, and a couple other like pretty interesting things.
Woody Fincham watching the program.
Woody.
God, I love you, Woody.
Woody.
If you guys want to get some Buffalo Trace, I would be happy to donate the bottles if someone is willing to pay retail for them to the charity and sponsor the raffle that I won. I legally cannot sell them, so if I can get the money going to a good cause, we can also supply great bourbon. Woody Fincham, thinking creatively over here. Keith Smith, the homework and data you did.
Yeah, man, I am just looking.
By the way, big shout out. I called Woody for like a personal favor for a family friend the other day, and I think he got in touch and handled that like an absolute pro. So anybody watching, and if you need them for a privately done appraisal, reach out. Just cannot speak highly enough of the gentleman. And I was actually on the phone with another realtor, Amy Fincham, non-related, who speaks super highly of him as well.
And Keith, I'll get out of your way. Scott, you'll appreciate this. Kevin Yancey has a 750 milliliter, 25-year-old Pappy Van Winkle at his house.
I bet if I had one, I'd have that same sentence. I would be able to say that I had one.
Right.
So
Dude, how much is that bottle?
Not have.
A 25-year Pappy?
Yeah.
How much is that?
I think retail is probably $1,100.
$1,100, yeah. If that's retail.
Yeah.
The Facebook groups, that's going for like 2x that.
Probably, yeah.
All right, Keith.
Hold on, I'm DMing him right now because I need to know his address. So last time it was 8%, so everybody knows. I'm looking at 1971 to today was in the year 2000. 2000, it was 8.05% was the average of a 30-year mortgage. It dropped a little bit below 7 in 2001 and then started declining ever since. So we have not seen 8%, if that's where we get to, since 2000. 7% was 2001 because that was the following year. It was close, 6.97. So it's been a while. And to Jerry's point, before we got we went live, I did all this research from 87 to today, just because I lived through these cycles, multiple ones, and one who borrows lots of money for development and building, when they go up a quarter point, 3/4 a point, or jumps 2 points in a year, like it did in some of the previous years, it impacts what you do in a huge way because you borrow money up against prime.
What you were getting to in new construction, it's something I've been talking to borrowers about and keeping an eye on. Custom builders who are going to continue to face rising labor expenses and some continued supply chain problems.
If they could even find the labor.
If they can, I talked to two personal friend contractors. They both do remodels in different fields. One does some really high-end stuff. The other has traditionally done primarily insurance-related situations, but they've moved into a consumer-based field as well. Both struggle labor. Both the main problems is skilled carpentry and project managers. One of them, I think, has got his arms around most of that. He needs to hire an assistant, but then it's like trying to figure out what the cost. How do you get him enough hours in and hiring the right personality? And this is something that everybody faces, no matter what your industry is. If I'm out here talking to other business owners and coaching and trying to find out what's going to make them more successful, I highly recommend something called a DISC test. But there's other different types of personality tests as well. You want to know that the type of person that you're putting into this role isn't more set or skilled for, say, a sales position, and that they're organized. They're going to be doing the things that you need them to do, and they're not going to feel alienated by the position. So also, again, anybody out there watching who wants to talk about stuff like that, I'd love to do it. It's something that I've found myself to be in my skill set is hiring and finding the right people and helping others do the same thing. So
it's interesting. I didn't print it out because I was working on data since 1987 till now. I've skimmed an article early this morning because I didn't get a chance to do it. Housing starts were up in August.
And what I skimmed over somehow in that tangent that I took.
The second part of that is?
The home builders who have homes in the ground expect to see discounts. Yeah. Home builders that don't have specs sitting expect those costs to continue to stay flat or rise.
So it's funny you should say that. I'm working with it happens to be a cash client, but I'm working for a new construction cash client, and we are laser focusing on stuff that's in the ground. Right? They're not specific. They don't care what neighborhood they're in. They just want new construction. And we're having conversations about, hey, I'll furnish the basement for free. Right? So we're back to what that was before, but you're spot on. But if you want something built in Jerry's subdivision or your subdivision, that number's climbing.
Home builders have been pulling back in the face of falling demand, but there was a small bump in single-family housing starts in August, according to the U.S. Census. Yeah. That may have been due to a brief drop in mortgage rates which sparked more interest from buyers, but building permits,
are down,
which are an indicator of future construction, fell dramatically as mortgage rates were expected to rise again. That's CNBC today.
And that's what I was going to get to in the second half of that comment. But starts stopped, but permits done. So permits are down, to your point, on that end of it. They're trying to complete what they've started, and they're offering discounts, but the permits are going to go out. Plus, the product type that they're permitting is changing very much so back to townhomes, and multifamily is rocking. I had 2 phone calls on the way in. Hey, find me some 1031 dirt. I want to do some multifamily. It's rocking. That's the next bubble. That's the next bubble.
What's the next bubble?
That multifamily.
Why you say that?
They're overbuilding.
You're saying there's too much multifamily?
There's too much.
Explain multifamily to viewers.
So multifamily apartment complexes, right? Not duplexes or something. Those are single-family attached units, but these
because they got greedy when those rents got crazy.
Well, they got greedy.
Some of those projects were,
that's true. And the pipeline forever.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about this.
Yeah. It's your wheelhouse.
All of this, what we're talking about, is in everyone's wheelhouse on the show. But it took 6 years to get to the point that they can put a foundation in the ground out in Flavanna in a project. So that's the problem. It takes forever. So that's the bubble, right? So people are trying to put stuff in a project right now. So I'm going to help Jerry buy a piece of dirt to go ahead and do a multifamily project. You got to buy that dirt now. You're not going to build on it for years down the line. And this all you got to do is look at everything from.
Can they change them into condos?
It depends on the jurisdiction.
That's
if they
what
could,
that's-
Villas at Southern Ridge did, where I got
I'm
one.
telling you right now,
And they crushed.
that's
Yeah, that was and the same thing with. Help me out, gentlemen. What's the one across from?
Hessian Hills?
No,
Barracks
sir.
West?
Hessian Hill did it. I'm thinking of the one by the hospital by the train tracks. Somebody help me out. On the feed.
behind Buffalo Wild Wings,
No, sir. Right across from where. Oh God.
Maya.
Right across from Meyer.
On
right.
West Main.
Right behind the railroad tracks. Right over there. Come on, help.
Why am I
help
drawing
me.
a blank on
I
that?
know
When
I am
I
too.
said Buffalo Wild
I've
Wings,
so-
I didn't mean Buffalo
Yeah,
Wild
Wild
Wings.
Wing
I mean
Cafe.
Wild Wing
I've sold literally sold dozens of
I'll
them.
find that. I'll
Yeah.
find that. Condo
So-
complex. God, I should know that too.
My point being is, if
But they did that.
If they can put condos in Fluvanna County, that not only does that goes to solve an affordable housing problem,
Walker Square.
Thank you, Walker.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that had a tumultuous history. It started out as condos, went to apartments, went back to condos. Here's the struggle with that. So if you and the three of us get together and build this building, and we're starting it off as
yeah.
the ownership thing becomes an issue, right?
Yes,
As everybody at this table knows how that math works, and so that was with Walker Square. They were okay because they still owned enough of it, 51%, and they just converted. They bought out everybody that.
Well, that's
was
what
in
Bart Fry did at the Villas at Southern Ridge.
Correct.
Still controls it.
But that's what happened. So my comment, and I literally have a client that's looking to do that, and I said, look, I think you need to really look at this closely, because if it goes flat, and if we're in a jurisdiction that isn't going to be that easy to convert, you might be stuck with something here. So anyway.
You got, let's go to John Blair's comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
John Blair is just a fantastic guy, friend of the program, and smart dude. He says this, and John, I sincerely mean this. I say this all the time on the show. You not being in Charlottesville, working in City Hall, is our loss, because you are A+.
That's what happens when you don't listen to somebody.
Everyone should listen to John Blair. So he's got multiple comments here from LinkedIn that we're going to get to. Jerry, the 10-year Treasury closed at 3.55% yesterday. Given a risk premium, an equity is going to need to offer 4.8% return, price appreciation, and or dividend to be more attractive than throwing your money into a bond fund. Given that equities look poised to take a bath, you're 100% correct about buyers putting their money into real estate, the cash-rich buyers. The play for anyone with cash right now who wants a better return than the 10-year is real estate. Those who have been sitting on fat stacks are about to hoover up some amazing deals on the real estate market. I agree with that. He also says this, one other thought on this. If you purchase your home before 2020, when prices skyrocketed due to the pandemic, and you secured a fixed rate or refinanced at 4% or less, that feels like it may become a dividing line in American society in terms of wealth. Given home price appreciation since 2020 and the money you save on a mortgage compared to a 7% or 8% rate, you're talking what? $300 a month for a $400,000 or more mortgage? And that's not even taking into account reinvesting the mortgage payment difference into an S&P 500 index fund. I truly believe that in 5 to 10 years, economists are going to look at America's wealth-based gap on a pre or post 2020 home ownership with fixed rate mortgages.
So if you've been listening to...
Damn good.
Without a doubt. If you've been listening to Jerry and I for some time, we've been talking about this wealth gap, and it's going to continue to get worse. I've been in this business for a little while, and this kind of happens this time, right? The people with cash start buying dirt, and what'll happen is the people that can buy down points or put more cash down to a loan instead of 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, they're going to be in the market. It's the first-time home buyer that is going to get hurt here. And, we were just looking at these numbers for 60 days. Even though we're flat list over sales, we're still 55 grand up the same 60 days year over year. So
I'm going to systematically pick that apart.
Go ahead, you go. I'll have my coffee.
I love it. I love when you do this, dude. You're bringing it today. You missed this.
So, in that statement, when we look up the amount of appreciation that these homes made that are somewhat paper appreciation between 2020 and now, I own several properties.
So you're saying that's
that
paper
have this bidding.
value? Really?
So as we see rates go up, appraisals will start to flatten, and we're not going to see some 10% fall. I think there are areas that will.
Oh, we're saying the same thing then.
Yeah. But when we talk about the number of people in America who have those 4 or sub 4 mortgages, who have now, which I've spoken on, more credit card debt, less savings. The average time that the American is inside of a mortgage, I don't care how long you're in your home, what the first-time home buyer stats are, I don't care about it. The average time that they're in the mortgage, so whether they sell or refinance, is 10 years. So the people who were in a great equitable position, who then get themselves into some form of financial problems, next year, not 2024, not forever from now, inside of the next 9 months, rates will be back into a 5 to 4 range. At that time, you're going to see people who jump back into cash out. Let's pay these credit cards off. But more importantly, for the first-time buyer who got in, who, to his point, I don't know if we talked about it in that quote John had, but the difference in total interest payments on a let's say a $400,000 loan, $400,000 loan, 230-year fixed, 2.875, $230,000 in total interest paid over the course of the loan. $450,000 at 6.25%, 7%. So we're talking about double the amount of interest. That's over the entire term of that loan. Inside of the first 10 years, that's significantly less. And inside of the first 2 years, these people have the opportunity to get in, and I hate this Facebook trending bullshit, date the house, date the rate, marry the house. But the point is, if they have kept their credit up and they have sustained equity in the home, they are going to refi out of that loan in the first 24 months. I just either was lied to or inadvertently talked a buyer out from someone in Keith's team because he sent me a fee sheet from another lender that had done his previous mortgage. And I said, look, my guy, you're paying 2.5 discount points to the tune of $10,000 to get to a payment that you're comfortable with. If you can mentally commit to making the payment for the next 12 months, you are going to refinance this loan. It's a VA loan through an IRRRL, through an interest rate reduction refinance loan that you are going to give me. Basically, it's a no document. I can prove if you've been paying and you haven't lost your job. Don't have to prove anything else. With low closing costs, we bring you back down into whatever the lowest possible thing is available, and we move you on. You haven't lost 360 payments. You haven't lost 30 years of your life there. You haven't doubled from $285,000 at the 2.875 to $450 at 6.25%, 7%. You're in for a few months, and then you get back into a manageable zone that you can decide what you want to do with your life from there with. And to follow that, if you are someone who has the ability, as we go into, we see more days on market, we see more properties with concerns, you go in and I've got builders that are already set up for all the FHA 203K stuff. We go in, we make a 203K purchase, we get the work done and closed. I start the clock for 7 months from now, because 7 months from now, we're going to refinance at that new value and pull all that mortgage insurance off that you've been paying through FHA. There are so many opportunities right now.
How I'll throw this to you. How sophisticated is average Joe or average Sally homeowner when it comes to
they're sophisticated
these
as they're trusted
mechanisms.
as advisors.
Okay.
So the guy who got the let's go dump $11,000 of your money that you're never going to get back needed a second voice. And if that second voice made him go, you know what, man, F it, I'm not doing this right now. I don't, you know.
You don't feel bad for
I
me.
don't feel bad.
Yeah, I understand that. And you and I are very similar mindsets. I also have to emphasize this because I've learned this from Judah and I've learned this from my wife. The average Sally and the average Joe does not read the contracts.
No.
The average Sally, the average Joe.
I don't
Keith,
read anything. I'm a salesman. I'm the easiest sold person you've ever said in your life. Send it to me. Click, click. I like it. I like
average
you.
Sally,
Let's get it
average
done.
Joe does not know these mechanisms.
I can't tell you how much time I spend talking to buyers and sellers that say, "Oh, I didn't read my HOA. Oh, I didn't."
I didn't read the terms of the second
Yeah.
mortgage that I had. What do you mean this? I just got something in the mail. It said this adjusts.
I didn't read.
Tenants, our tenants, I didn't read my
Nobody-
lease that signed it.
Nobody reads a document. I've done transactions with lawyers who do not read documents.
Okay, there we go.
So but to point out what Scott has said, and my very sensitive ears, I couldn't believe you said.
I mean, Jamie Turner just said, Scott is turning it up. Let's go. And literally just put out there.
But it brings up a topic that we've been talking about with multiple panels here in the last couple of weeks. Is, you know, and I'm gonna keep it simple, guys. Trusted advisors, trusted advisors, trusted advisors. You need to have these
Especially now.
thank you, these tough, honest conversations with your client. And maybe the client is, you know, I can't help you. So in other words, you know, maybe you don't want to be the one that if they're not listening to you, and you know, poor Jerry deals with this with me for 3.5 years, right? Sometimes, you know, you don't want to listen to your trusted advisor, and then you have to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. It's not about the commission. It's not about the closing of the deal. It's about developing the relationship, because you want that person to come back and
Well, the message I delivered.
That's why you're good,
The
Keith.
message I
That's why you're
delivered to
good.
this guy was, I was like, you sent me an email.
that's the
saying,
reason I sent them to you,
Yeah.
because they needed to hear the truth.
Can you beat this deal? I said, look, here's the deal. What you're sending me is
what's the
pretty
deal?
good for what it is. Yeah, and they sent me that also.
No.
I said-
The point I was trying to make, the deal is not necessarily a deal. A good deal on paper may
Right.
look this way,
I said,
but that's not a good deal.
I don't care if
because-
you work with me or take the advice that I just gave you back to the guy that you've already worked with in the past and have them, you know, see what he thinks about that. But bottom line, if the guy said he didn't want to move forward, his original trusted advisor had to have said, well, when you put it that way, that makes a lot of sense.
I was on the phone, and I'll leave the name out of it, with a pretty well-heeled local investor, real estate investor, who works with other real estate agents and wanted my opinion on some city property. And I gave it to him. I said, look, if I was you, this is what I would do. I wish you all the luck in the world. If I can ever help you, let me know on that end of it. And he'll take that information, go to his guy or gal and go ahead and do that. But I just built a relationship, and this very influential real estate person called me, okay, I need you to tell me what the skinny is. And that's what you just said. And that's why we throw people to you all the time and say, okay, look, you know, these people need to hear the truth. We're sending our daughter and our son-in-law to you, who's going to, I can't say where now, but let's say they're going to be moving into Virginia, and they need to have an honest and open dialogue.
Woody, time value of money should
There
be
you go.
common knowledge,
There you go.
not how much payment can I afford.
So I'm not a smart guy, but I'm smart.
You are a smart guy. You are a smart guy.
I'm smart enough to know to hire the right people.
And that is what I was going
That's
to
why
get
you're
to a
smart guy.
minute ago when you said, how savvy are these people? If
If they're savvy.
when I talk to business friends and it's like, you know, well, this is your problem. Let's talk about how to fix your problem. You don't know how to do this well. You're only as good as the people. You're only as good as the people that you put around you. So if you operate from a managerial standpoint where you strike fear and everybody's got to say yes, you're going to get a lot of people that parrot a lot of the stuff that you
get
do.
a lot of
and
yes
you,
people.
You better be right. You better be right, because if you don't have anybody to go, hey Scott, I think that's a bad idea and here's why. And if you don't have, if you're not setting out as a customer going, you know, I like when people agree with me, but gosh, I would like to be felt that I was getting a straightforward answer.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's very straightforward question, gentlemen. Will the homeowner that has the 4% interest rate and lower, that purchased early pandemic or before pandemic, how will that impact the wealth gap versus the homeowner that purchased during the pandemic or right now and is locking in a 7% plus interest rate?
So let's talk.
This man's itching to jump in.
No, go ahead. You tackle this. I'd like to really hear you.
Let's talk
I
about.
love sitting in this seat and listening.
Let's talk
It's
about
a rare thing for me to shut up.
the homeowner and which homeowner we're talking about. Are we talking
Let's
about?
let's go one house. One house.
I know, but I'm gonna give you one house.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to talk to you about all the different people who own the house.
Okay.
So let's talk about a rancher purchased in the county as a move-in for a first-time couple who so they purchased at 280. They got a rate of 3%, and they've been able to save and accumulate, but now they're having one too many babies to stay in that house. Is that going to put them in a better position than the same couple who needs to try to get into the housing market now when they have the ability to capture, they've been there 2 years, the equity from that home and move into their move up, and the person who's now buying that house for $350,000 to $375,000 is at a higher payment, a higher principal balance, all of those things. Does that make that difficult for them? Yes, that's going to make it more difficult for them. But it's provided a lot of opportunity. Now, do you have the couple that moved from their McMansion to $400,000 one level that solved all their problems and gives them the extra for their grandkids?
So where is that?
Right.
Mrs. Smith, I'm about ready to get your lead here.
So that was 2019.
Yeah,
they bought that in 2019. But they have no intention of capturing that equity or coming out of, or they're never going to step out of that mortgage. But they want to travel more than they don't care if they want to live by Keith's motto of I'll keep borrowing the money and the government can take the debt when I die.
I literally told Pop that.
Love it. I love it.
I literally told Pop that.
It doesn't go to the kids?
No.
Screw him.
It doesn't go to the kids?
No.
Okay.
No. It
Depends on the asset that it's tied to.
It depends on the asset. It depends on how you got it structured.
Yeah.
It depends if you have it in a living trust, which is we actually have our homes in a living trust, and that's a topic.
Different show.
Yeah. That's an ERPI show
Yeah.
if there ever was. If there ever was one. No, but the conversation I had with Pop because his truck is dying. I said, "You're 84 years old. Go buy a new freaking truck, and go get an 80-month lease.
Yeah,
a 80-month warranty.
Yeah,
you die, screw them.
That's what they're not coming. They're not coming to the family for the.
But he won't do that. He won't do that, and he keeps on dumping money.
So stubborn.
Oh yeah, well he's Irish, so there's no sense being Irish if you're not stubborn.
And he's a Smith.
And he's a Smith, so and a fireman, which makes it worse. It was funny. I was, as you guys were talking, because I'm the simpleton here. I kept on going to Sesame Street, man. Cookie Monster is my favorite character on Sesame Street, and they have this thing goes, which one of these things is not the same, right? So I'm thinking as you guys are talking, and I'm looking through all the data. So this time today, again, I'll keep on asking this question: what is it different than what has happened before? Is it we're under, is it economics 101, right? According to Dr. Yoon, NAR's chief economist, we're 5 million. You talk to Lisa Sterovint, which is Bright's chief economist, it's 3 million, but we're a number of units short.
Millions.
And the builders are now walking back new construction, right?
I mean, can you blame them?
Well, no, this is what happens. If you really want to know the trends.
So he's saying this is going to compound.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
This is going to compound and make it even harder for that entry level buyer. But I think your question, Jerry, was, I'm ready to move up. Was the question, right? I bought it when it was 2% or whatever, and they didn't listen to us that this is the new norm, not the new norm. and they're going to go sell. Where are they going to go? Is that the question?
I mean,
we're
that's
asking?
one of the questions.
It's how does it affect the wealth gap?
How does it affect the wealth gap is the premise.
Yeah. So what it does
He's
is
basically saying if you have a 4% and you're in a house and you can stay in that house at the 4%, and to Scott's point, they don't stay in the house the full life of the mortgage. But John's saying if you can stay in the house at the 4% rate, and the person next door to you is basically the same house at a 7% rate, 7.5% rate, that's a delta of 3 points and change. The person with the 4% rate can take that savings, dump it into a index fund, and they're growing their wealth, where the 7.5% right next door is paying their mortgage.
So what happened in the last 2 years is probably never going to happen again. It never happened since 1987. It is not going to probably happen again.
Never going to happen.
This run up. What's going to happen is the consistent 3, 4, 5, 6%.
Europe is moving out of a negative rate cycle that they've been in for almost a decade.
Yeah. Well, that's very different reasons, and
It's all the same reasons. They need to combat inflation, and that they need the.
Well, what got them there is the regulatory and the social system, which is very, very different.
Very true.
But look, the point I'm trying to make. You said 10 years, right, in a mortgage. NAR
Max.
Yeah, NAR is just up to getting close to 10. It's roughly 8 years that folks stay in it. So people are turning homes, and they're turning homes. So Jerry's point is, I'm buying here at 3%. I built up some equity, right? I'm going to sell it.
Or what? Or
Hold
do
on
you
to it.
not sell it?
Yeah. So back.
Because the question is, and we're doing this now.
Yeah. So.
Do you sell and go to 7
Yeah.
when you got 4 and it's just good enough?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Well, we're going to save that comp.
I mean, I want it bad, but we don't have to do it.
That's not the point.
I mean, it's 5,200
People make
brick
em-
Georgian.
People make emotional-based decisions, and they rationalize them after the fact.
That's very true.
Real estate is always, we're talking numbers, real estate is, as long as I've been doing it since 87, it's always been emotional. It doesn't matter if you're buying a lot, your first home, or a multi-million-dollar transaction. There's always emotions tied into it. I think the question is do I sell now? And so we will start seeing, because we're tracking the numbers, and I've been using this new term, this hyper local markets, right? Where certain localities, we did this, I think it was Buckingham on Monday, right?
That's scare the hell out of me.
Yeah. So you're going to start seeing this.
What scared you about Buckingham?
Listen to that.
Yeah,
You had
I think I wrote the number down somewhere, Jerry. You give me 2 seconds. And
Buckingham County, we're talking actual sales values, not just sales volume, but the values of the homes are down scary amount.
I didn't write it down. I can quickly do a lookup. But
I got a friend of mine bought his house for $50,000 in Buckingham.
Say that again?
I've got a friend
Say
of mine.
Buckingham again?
The country is coming out right now.
Buckingham.
Will you look?
I'll go ahead and do that, but let me finish this.
It was double digits, wasn't it?
It was double digits.
Yeah.
Down. It was the only jurisdiction. So back to Jerry's comment on Monday.
What's available now versus what was available then?
That I can't do.
There was a lot of new construction projects that went in. I think that number's skewed for a lot of reasons.
Why take new construction out?
Okay.
I specifically do not use new construction because of that very reason. It skews the DOMs because they're at 0. I always do new construction independent. Independent of this. I love you. I don't mean to be.
No, he doesn't mind.
Bring the hammer down, baby.
But Jerry's comment that we were talking about the other day, which was, we got this balloon. I use a rubber band, right? We got the balloon, a little bit of air's coming out, hissing a little bit, it's adjusting. But you're going to start seeing this rubber band, I think, in our market, take a pear shape, right?
Well, and maybe Scott should, throw this to Scott. And Jamie Turner asked me to bring this up on Monday's show, and I thank you, Jamie. And this was the comment, Scott, that if you got a house on a street that sold at the beginning of the pandemic for, call it $500,000, then you got a house on the same street that sold at the end of the pandemic for $650,000. Isn't the house that sold for $650,000 at the end of the pandemic in a potential vulnerable position.
It's not in as advantageous of a position, but I think a lot of this is based on this fear that we've got this cliff ahead of us, and I don't think it's a cliff. I think it's a slope. I think we're going to lose some value. This is not the Sun Belt. I will ring the bell that we live in an insulated area,
no doubt,
for a lot of reasons, that we will not see the same national average pain here, but we will see a decrease. But I think that's it. It's just not.
Of all our jurisdictions, with the exception of Buckingham, everyone went up.
Even Nelson?
Even Nelson. Volume went down.
We're talking price points here.
We're talking price points. And that's to go back to my comment of the Cookie Monster, which is my favorite.
As days on market increase,
I like the Cookie Monster.
Yeah, thank you.
As days on market increase, that's where we start to see our plateaus.
You never really actually see him eat a cookie, though. You notice that?
I mean, he just gets it all over.
Yeah.
It's like my son.
When I do that, the whole thing is when your son does that, it's really cute. When an old dude does that, oh, that's sad. That's sad. I was having cookies with Yvonne and Yonna last night. I was doing Oreos because I was going to ride a bike ride, so I had to have my Oreos and cookies, and I was getting it all over me. And my teacher daughter goes, yeah, I teach 5-year-olds that know how to do a better job than I.
And to the point I was making, the home on the street that sold for $500 at the beginning of the pandemic, the home next door that sold for $650 at the end of the pandemic. And then the home on the same street that's 2 doors down that is now having the price reductions that wanted the $650 and is now trading somewhere between $575 and $600. The home that sold for $650 in the midst of the pandemic, the peak, is in a vulnerable spot. But to Scott's point, the national trends that we are getting bombarded and manipulated and brainwashed with may not necessarily apply as dramatically to this area.
That's why you have to
university.
watch this show. That's why
you
have to be hyper local. And I've added an extra thing to my normal speech, right? It's location, price, features, conditions, and timing. This is what we're talking about, timing.
Yeah.
And then the 6th one, which I got for a little trouble with, which I'm going to continue to do it. Who's on the other side? Relationships matter.
And that spread's not as big in your cookie cutter neighborhoods as it is like in your when you say that street and you name those prices. To me, that rings more true of a bunch of colonials that are in different shapes.
I'm seeing it in mine.
Well, you've got, okay, but are we counting old neighborhood, new neighborhood?
I'm not new construction, although the new construction.
No, I'm talking. There's the
different styles,
the cottages, versus.
Oh, I'm just talking like not the cottages or the Scottish.
But yours isn't cookie cutter still. You've got a vast variety of like.
You got brick Georgians, you got hardy planks.
Look at the 50-foot scaffolding they're doing on this $2 million.
He's talking custom
remodel. Yeah. On existing homes, there's a ton of like people doing some amazing stuff out there. Those homes, I'm not calling that cookie cutter. There's too much not matchy.
That's a fair point. It's very custom. Keith is going to highlight Jeff Gaffney here. I know, we work together.
Just having my coffee. You talk.
Is it Monday, my friend?
It is Monday, and we're going to, by the way, Buckingham value was down about 12%.
12% year over year.
Year over year.
Yeah.
That doesn't scare me.
But the number, right, is like 172, right? So these are affordable from an affordability perspective, but they've gone down, and oh, by the way, the spread right now, so the spread was on par in 2021, meaning list versus sale. We're about $20,000 off in that. So, but you're going to see this rubber band come back in here. But it's interesting. I'm excited about Monday's conversation because I have some personal history with that particular neighborhood.
Right.
I built the first custom home in there. Actually, I think you worked on that home. Did you work in Glenmore? Oh, you never worked anyway. I paid you, but you didn't work.
There's a pretty good chance that I could have worked there and don't remember being there.
But I paid you though, didn't I?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
You remember what street it was? Was it Darby? Had to be Darby. That was phase one, right?
First come in right.
Yeah, it's Darby.
Darby, yeah. It's a brick home. A great client was a retired brick mason from England, and the brickwork on the home is
That's a great street.
Unbelievable. But I remember then and the history of that particular project.
Roller coaster, the neighborhood.
Which brings back to the conversation we always have, why does a storefront just doesn't work no matter who's in it. So you'll find certain subdivisions that all of a sudden are really good. They're going to start coming down. Certain jurisdictions like Buckingham, that was really, everybody was going there on it as this work at home starts melding a little bit to a 50-50 split or whatever it happens to be. They're like, oh, and then Jerry will quote unquote, how many people were not satisfied when they purchased their home?
70%. 70% according to the National Association of Realtors. People who purchased their home during the pandemic, 70% of purchasers are dissatisfied, bitter, or unhappy with the purchase they made.
And that's because
That's because it was craziness.
Well, or they didn't listen to their trusted advisor. But I can tell you, we're very fortunate. Our tempo is picking up big time.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, you guys are talented.
Well, we have the right people around us. And one of them sitting at this table with us.
I can tell you what they're not unhappy about is the rate.
Judah's nodding his head, yes, saying that. I'm just saying that's me.
Including to my left, around these two tables, right? Because we have a table to our left.
I think
Why are you
70%
smiling?
number.
You're going on vacation.
That 70% number seems awfully.
That's NAR. That's NAR.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's NAR, which when you got
National Association of Realtors.
Yeah, thank you. We can take a deep dive into it. I literally got the 170-page report on my laptop as on what I'm looking at. But it's certain price, certain age group. It's more the millennial end of it that hits that number. The boomer, not so much, right? But I will tell you, I mean, we love working with the millennials, and it's come around again. They're putting what I'm holding in my hand, this iPhone, down and saying, I need you to give me some advice. That might be something about the gray hair, but...
No, it's because people are programmed not to trust the internet. I mean, it's how much bad information... Like, Scott, I've been doing all this, and I keep reading about all this, and nothing matches. Like, and then I realize that it's paid ads. Like, people are, if they're a little bit savvy, they know what to look for. They become, the conspiracy theory still exists. So
that's
they don't,
me.
But
that's you.
I got to tell you, I'm looking at the last, just to pull the quick number.
I'm in that business, Scott.
The last 7 days of sold in our full footprint, right? List versus sale is literally $100 off. $200 off.
So you're saying they're selling for list price?
They're pretty flat, yeah. So it's.
You're saying the price reductions aren't happening? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is I think the price reductions have happened. I think the sellers are.
Oh.
The sellers catch up.
They've realized what's happened.
The buyers know what's going on long before the sellers know what's going on.
No doubt.
And I think what's happening is we're vetting through this over the last 60 to 90 days. Even more than that, and I think they're getting the prices right going in. That's what that's telling me. Where you had these huge spreads, like it's 401,977 versus 401,727, whatever the math difference is. It's a couple $100, right? Versus if I would have looked at this a year ago, I bet you that sales price was way over list price. That's so it's starting to balance, which is what we've been talking about. It needed to happen anyway. It's who gets left behind.
Right, and in regards to two families emphasizing this on the feed, in regards to Glenmore, which we've referenced, the properties are still moving.
Yeah, I'm prepared to talk about that on Sunday.
They're selling.
They're selling, right? But Glenmore had this history up and down. Spring Creek, right, up and down. Subdivisions I built up and down, right? It's kind of cyclical. This is what happens, but there's no indicator out there from anybody I've spoken to, and Scott, you can echo this or shoot holes in it. The air will come out of the balloon, the rubber band will contract a little bit on that, but the rubber band isn't going to snap and the balloon isn't going to pop.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no indicators of that. It will impact the marginal, the most vulnerable
Yeah.
of us out there. That's the reason I spend so much time on this affordable housing bodies I sit on. It impacts them tremendously.
I know we're getting close to that time, so
Oh.
I'm gonna put her on blast. One of the women in my life that I absolutely love, Roxanne Carter Johnson, has made a commitment by the end of the year to sit down and do a show. She's been a big proponent of some of the things that you've brought up in some other shows that I'm not going to get into because
You're talking the Bank of America lending program.
I'm not talking Bank of America.
Okay.
I'm talking more some of the school-related stuff and things that just that there's believers out there that there can be some improvement. But also, she is a huge proponent and partner with Keith in the affordable housing community.
I have
here
to. Somebody tag her, please.
I will. I'll tag her right now.
I sit in multiple board meetings with. I've never heard something come out of her mouth that didn't make a lot of sense.
She goes beyond advocate.
Yeah.
She is an incredible human being.
The people
and a
that
great
are
friend.
involved in that world with us is beyond. The passion is unbelievable what they are for that. But she is. Every time I walk away from a meeting, I become a little bit smarter and a little bit more informed and a little bit more empathetic.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it. Gentlemen, we still got time. The show's on fire. Keep talking to us.
Yeah,
I just didn't forget. I did not want to forget that shout out. So Roxy,
So she's coming on
she has promised me a seat at the table by the end of the year
on the Wednesday show.
on the Wednesday show.
Well, I'll remind her that the next board meeting I sit
can
down
do
to
that.
later
You can
on
do
the
that.
next couple
I just
of days.
tagged her.
Yeah.
I just absolutely tagged her. We would love to have her.
Yeah, that's good. I'm looking forward to a little tag team in here. This is going to
Yes.
be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Look, it's data, and to go back and look in the past is great, but again, to quote Cookie Monster, what's different here? And I'm honestly asking people in the field that is listening and the folks at this table, to include our dear friend Judah, who runs our lives here on set. What's different? What is the one thing you do, right? You met.
Oh, I got nothing but love for Judah.
Yeah. It's the quiet ones you always got to watch out for.
No doubt.
Is it the magical Oz?
No doubt.
Yeah.
The
Sees
guy that's-
all. He
Yeah,
sees
sees
all.
all.
So what's different, right? What is different in what's happening? Because when you start looking at these run-ups, right, to something else happening, what is different that's not going to let that something else happen? Does that make sense?
For sure. It's the fact that we don't have an oversupply of adjustable rate mortgages that are going to now the world economy may not support that, because outside of what we did in 2009, 2010, most countries, New Zealand had a huge housing boom. They're down 50%.
Yeah.
Their mortgages adjust yearly. Canada's, I believe, adjust every 5 years. Somebody could jump in, and I could be totally inaccurate on that. But most countries in the world have mortgages that adjust on an annual, semi-annual basis, and we don't do that anymore.
I can speak personally to that because a property we own in Europe, in Austria, in Yonna's home place, that's how that works. And oh, by the way, it's the banks. There's no mortgage brokers, right? It's all the banks that do that. And oh, by the way, there's no real estate agents because the banks do it on that end of it. It's a very unique system.
That sounds like a dangerous scenario.
It's
Too
weird.
much power aggregated in one hand.
It is beyond weird. And oh, by the way, there's no such an animal as a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Right?
saying.
There's no
Yeah.
such an animal as that. Now, I think they're starting to change that a little bit, on that end of it, but it's interesting.
So you guys offering clarity and a voice of reason for everybody. That's what you're doing.
Yeah,
And
I'm
you're
telling-
appreciated.
Just stop watching the news.
And watch.
Real talk.
And watch Real Talk.
And I love Charlottesville.
yeah.
There you go.
Nothing. I say this all the time. Nothing is as good as it seems. Nothing is as bad as it seems.
That's right.
And the same. The NAMBA guy, the National Builder Association, they're starting to do some lobbying because they want. So you got you've got the head of Wells Fargo who wants this rate increase. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get it all done at once because they want that short-term interest.
Well, hold on a second. Didn't we bail them out?
Just
saying.
Short memories.
I remember that.
And then you've got NAMBA who's coming in and saying, we've gone too far already. Please make it stop. Because they want to get back in a positive position for them. And it's, and they each have control to some form of media. And that, so don't believe everything you read. A lot of, they're all out. The only thing that I will disagree with, and I know this show talked quite a bit of it, was Bank of America's purchase program. And I've got some African American black friends on Facebook who said it's a trap. Don't buy into it. It is this. It is that. And I said, look, dude, more than anything else, I think this is a marketing tool because the number of people and places that actually qualify for these loans is super limited, and it's not allowing people with bad credit in. It's allowing people with no credit in. The problem lies in the fact that when rates fall, they will not be in an equitable enough position to then refinance to lower rates. That, if there is a trap, that is the trap. It's not the fact that it's allowing people access to the market that no longer had it previously.
Well, isn't the trap also the broken HVAC and the damaged roof, and not having the money to fix it? I mean, a roof ain't cheap.
I don't have an answer for that or for everything, but at the same time, I've got a feeling these properties should still have to appraise. If they're not doing that, and they are literally going to be
so
lending...
it's got nothing to do with the value, with Jerry's point.
Or the condition?
It even doesn't have anything to do with the condition of it.
I think that's set. Then the Bank of America, I promise you this, some of these purchases are being made at the $50,000 level. And I know, and I can guarantee you that Bank of America does not want to be the property owner of a house with a leaking roof that a buyer walks away from because they won't have anything to do with it either.
Yeah, so I know a little bit about this, and this is really a Roxanne Carter Johnson conversation because...
Roxy, if you tuned in after being tagged, ring that bell, girl. I need you in my life.
So God love you. So
it's the truth.
Yeah. So this, because I've actually spoken to the CEO of Bank of America a couple of weeks ago at an event that I was at. They don't know how this is going to come together, and this is going to be a CDFI thing. It's going to be federal money dumped into it. I get it, and it's going to be laser focused to specific. It's not going to. This is not going to end up in Charlottesville.
No, they've already chosen 21 cities.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at them, but I know that it's available in Charlotte, and I can tell you right now, if you are someone in Charlotte who has access to this, take advantage of it. That is an amazing, amazing market, and and for better or for worse, parts of it may or may not be getting gentrified, but that's only going to drive up property values for people who go in and take advantage of this.
So Roxanne and I know about this because in order to run through a CDIFI program, it's going to have to run through, and if it was in this area, but Piedmont Housing Alliance, and the buyers are going to be required, just like the land trust buyers, to go through a home ownership thing, which I'm part of, and we explain to them, look, this is the reality of home ownership, and so I can tell you that there's a huge education process through that there, but it is a very one-off. It's very laser focused. It's federal money. It's going to run through CDFI.
The thing that would scare you if it's not federal money, if it's portfolio money, then that's a different story.
If it's portfolio money,
then you get the bejeebus scared out of you.
But what is it, Katie Bar? How do you say that? Katie Bar the door barn, whatever. When you have to close the doors of the barn. But anyway, that's when things are going to get tricky. But at the moment,
it's federal.
It's federal money.
Scott, Travis Hackworth, welcome to the show. Travis, we love you, and we completely agree with you that every market is different. A couple of people want your take on the new construction all over the Outer Banks and whether that scares you at all, Scott.
I
think that's the fear is what, second homes speculation?
That's already, so the government already put some LLPAs in, loan level price adjustments in, so now a second home purchase prices a lot like an investment purchase. So your only benefit is your 10% down. Used to be no penalty in rate. Now you're basically whatever. You're right in line with investment money.
What about hurricane insurance? That's through the roof, literally.
I mean,
you've got a
my insurance down there is
He's got a house
not
down there.
outrageous. Get yourself a good trusted advisor. If you're going to run rentals through it, make sure that they account for renters insurance, because if some asshole burns your house down and you've got it set up as your primary, as your second home, and you're not going to rent it, then the insurance company sniffs that out and decides to not pay you. You may have some serious feelings about that. But
That's good advice.
and then there's some other things, like some people want to move these things into LLCs. I'd be willing to have like a non-publicly talked about conversation in regards to ways to do that to protect yourself. Because when you make that move, you technically call that mortgage due. So
Right.
It's not that it can't be done. People do it all the time. I advise against it.
Well,
but
they
I
normally
also
do it up
advise-
front, though.
That's the
Then
you
it's
got
a
to do it
commercial
in
purchase.
Yeah. You got to do it in the initial purchase. You should never do
It's
that.
not a residential purchase if it's done in a business name.
Well, help me understand this. You can't have a primary residence in LLC if it's done up front?
No.
The answer, yeah.
Really?
Well,
Because the reason I ask that is because you see a lot of, like, say a quarterback that doesn't want people to know where they live, that are buying their primary residence in LLC. Now, probably that quarterback's doing all cash to buy it. Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's what's happening.
No, there is some financing done in those situations. That is
Much like doctor loans, there's
that's
a whole
a
different
multi-layered
Okay.
conversation.
So it's the all
of
cash. That's how they're doing
housing-wise. That is, I would love to like beg Bill Tucker to come sit down and like have a conversation where he could answer in lawyer speak on what's right, what's wrong, and what he's willing
that's
to say.
an interesting thing. Bill is one of our sponsors and haven't sat in the seat, so we're going to put that together.
Charleston Settlement Company.
I hope work that. I love Bill.
We will put that together. Bill's a lot of fun. He'll wear his hippie sandals, and we'll talk about
Birkenstocks.
Birkenstock, and we'll talk about Woodstock again, and we'll have a lot of fun.
There is not anyone out there that has done more for me without charge, cause, or reason than to say, Scott, thank you for referring us. If you need an answer, I'm always a phone call away.
Beth Marcus, Queen of Ivy. I'm thinking about building something simple. Thoughts? Timing? Is now a good time?
When you say simple, let's define that. Is it something that a builder already has a set of plans for and that they can do for you? Or is this simple in the fact that you have a small custom home idea and haven't talked to an architect yet?
I also want to emphasize this, and Beth, I don't want to speak for you or out of turn here. Beth is doing quite well.
Okay.
So I'm so proud. Look at all those years you worked for me. You learned something about new construction. So here's the point on that. Small isn't always cheaper. Right? So
if you go to an architect, then an architect creates a set of plans. You take that set of plans to 3 different builders. 2 of them won't answer the phone, and one says, look, I've never built this house before, and there's an amount of waste that I'm not going to be able to account for. Where do you want to start?
Yeah. So my suggestion would actually not go to an architect. I would do a design build firm to that.
One level custom, she says.
Yeah, one level custom. So that's was my bread and butter. I built almost 600 of them. But yeah, sometimes she's probably, if I was guessing, somewhere between 1,600 and 2,000 square feet, 2-car garage, maybe not, split floor plan, master bedroom on one side, 2 bedroom on the other side. Built literally hundreds and hundreds of those on that end of it. But yeah, that's a 2,000 square foot house versus a 2,400 square foot house really isn't that much different in price.
She said the Farmington taxes are absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, well, we're talking about living in Farmington on top of that?
Well,
I said she was doing quite well.
Come on,
I
girl.
said she
You can
was-
build whatever you want.
I said she was doing quite well. She watches a lot of our shows. She's an incredible philanthropist and benefactor for the animal community as well.
Okay.
Thank you. My wife sits on Flavana SPCA.
She said, you got it, Keith, with what you just said.
Yeah. And maybe we're at the same stage in our lives that we're empty nesters.
She is a empty nester single lady.
Yeah, this is exactly right. You
has a lot of dogs though, Beth.
Yeah. Well, so do we. So that's
no, she has a lot of dogs.
Oh, really?
How many dogs you got right now, Beth? I think maybe close to 10.
Then I may be coming home to another.
That's a lot.
One.
Yeah, you have what?
I have one.
I think she has close to 10.
Yeah. And that's the problem with Mrs. Smith being on the SPCA board. I may end up with more.
My twin said, I've got two
I'll
70-pound
leverage it
English
for a new
bulldogs.
bike. But
You have what?
I've got two 70-pound English bulldogs that are getting up in age, and the girls are like, "We want a puppy." I was like, "We're not getting a puppy while however he's an old man. That's not fair to him." And she's like, "We want it to sleep in our beds." I was like, "You don't want the dogs you have sleeping in your bed. You don't. That dog is gonna bite you, pee something in your bed. You're gonna be like, Daddy, get this dog out of here." So
she has 7 dogs. She would sell Farmington. Because of the taxes,
okay,
and then
okay.
build.
Gotcha.
So I mean, it's if without even
The world
meeting,
is your oyster, Beth.
without meeting the young lady.
And on top of what already in bank, world is her oyster.
Yeah.
Looking for
100%.
Yep.
looking for 10 acres.
Find
somewhere.
a builder that you trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reach out to me. I've got a couple of builders that I can turn you on to. But 10 acres, 1,800 square foot, a little barn area for the puppies on that end of it.
She likes the dogs in the house.
Yeah, but you can connect the two. I've built custom homes for people.
Yeah,
but
running shed, dog.
Yeah.
You want to have dog wash station.
Yeah.
Like you can
Build
go.
first, then sell. Puts that in perspective for you.
Okay.
Build first, then sell.
Well, that's just smart. If you can fiscally do that.
Already has a lot in Ivy ready to go.
There you go.
I love you, Beth.
There
Beth
you
is living the dream.
Problem solved.
Living the dream, Beth.
You know what?
You're
God
a year and
bless
a
her.
lot of headaches from
I
exactly
mean,
what you want.
She gets
God
to do
bless
whatever
her.
she wants.
God bless her. Look, good for her.
Yeah,
Good for her.
absolutely. Gets to do whatever she wants. This is a damn good show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm borderline like on delivering a message about the absence, but I plan on having.
We should do that at the beginning of the show, the next one you're on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm planning on having Tova Payne, one of my LOAs, who's worked as
You want to define what that is
assistant
for
in the
those who-
past. She's
LO.
she's a loan officer assistant. She's a mortgage
That's for next Wednesday, right?
a mortgage advisor assistant. Yeah, she's gonna be standing in next Wednesday. She's super excited. By super excited, I mean scared to death. But she's gonna kill it. She's gonna be great. She's
Your boy
amazing.
Jon Snow did well.
Jon Snow is fantastic.
You got a good team.
So, thank
Very
you.
much so.
Thank you. I've worked hard to put the right people in place.
I know you have.
And I've got Quentin filling in for me on Friday. And kind of like what you're going to share, I'll probably share after you.
Okay.
We'll do a show of sharing.
Cool.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring.
Had that conversation with our son yesterday. You guys are the best.
So how did that go? Tell.
I think he looked at me, then threw a pillow at me.
Oh, it was a pillow. You're okay.
He's not into the sharing thing.
I know. He's better get used to sharing with number 2 coming.
Yeah, that will.
That's getting close, isn't it?
The only thing that holds his attention is hitting balls with rackets or bats or something like that.
So Colton, prior to 2,
This is Scott's son. Yeah.
he walked right. Got this first set of plastic clubs, and his hand coordination to where he goes to the tennis with the girls, and he can hit at 2 ball in the air, can't accurately return it, but makes consistent contact.
It's like
So
our
same
son.
thing. Yeah. Absolutely. Just
And doesn't it? Aren't you so proud?
Yeah, dude, I love it.
Me too.
He's not going to be tall, so he better be tough.
That's right. That's a perfect example of our son. Scott Morris killed it. Keith Smith always kills it. Judah Wickower killed it. Liza the dog killed it. This was a joy to host this show, guys. This
And
is
Jerry
real
Miller
talk.
killed it today.
I mean, this is my favorite kind of show. I mean, it's 11:45, and I want to keep going, but he would get a little irked over there.
He's going on vacation.
He's got to get ready for the 12:30. I mean, it takes a while to get ready.
We love you, Judah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the show, guys. Real Talk. It's online at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. The I Love Seville show is next in T-minus 45 minutes. Thank you kindly for joining us. So long, everybody.
Thank you.
That was excellent. Damn good.
Cookie Monster.
Good job, boys.
Thank you.